Beautiful. Simply beautiful. That is the words I would use to describe this week's episode of My Dress Up Darling, episode 9. Seriously, I learned so much from this episode. Can we just take a few moments to talk about that? Anyone that walked into this show, started watching My Dress Up Darling and actually, sat down and watched episode 9, probably learned a lot about cosplay, because this entire episode today is pretty much just about cosplay, which I know many people will argue, well, Chibi, there's a lot of episodes just about cosplay. That's kind of what the point of the series is. But in terms of knowledge and understanding things, I think that this episode was very, very well grounded in reality and showcases the struggles of someone wanting to play a character of the opposite gender, but also trying to, work within a budget. For instance, a low budget cosplay, because you don't have hundreds upon hundreds of dollars or yen to actually spend. And I like what this episode represents, because I think the average individual that wants to do cosplays, wants to sit down and actually dress up as another character, will eventually run into this type of wall. You might have a lot of money at the start, you might throw money at some expensive outfits and stuff, how Kitagawa is, how she wants to have all the fancy stuff to make the outfits look good, because she apparently seems to have a lot of money. When you actually look at just the situation, eventually you're going to run into a point to where you're going to have to do some low budget stuff. You're going to have to, work around a budget, get some very low grade items to try to make it look as best as possible. And I think the most, genius stuff comes from people that use their mind and flexibility with their budget to actually do their cosplays. You can have some of the best, cosplays with a low budget. And I appreciate this episode. I really do appreciate the knowledge and effort and passion that was put into it, the writing behind it, because it's very clear that the writer of My Dress Up Darling, it's been very clear before, but is very well aware of the cosplaying culture, really understands, what it means to cosplay, the feelings behind cosplay, but also just the struggles of potentially wanting to do that hobby of cosplay. There's a lot of money involved in it. It's not something that is just you can put $20 here and that's it. It's hundreds upon hundreds, and the money just continues to stack up. And I like that aspect. This is a good episode that really showcases someone that is very inexperienced with cosplay, two individuals that are kind of inexperienced with cosplay trying to come together to make something work. So I guess let's dive headfirst into it. Shinju, the main character, one of the main characters of this episode, I guess, the Juju's sister. She is the big spotlight of this episode, and we get to see kind of her declaration that she wants to cosplay. And this is, once again, a very beautiful moment that plays off of the many other things we've seen so far from the story of characters opening up and doing what they want to do, and not trying to stay hush-hush about it, because people might give them the side-eye or think that they're weird, etc. For instance, Gojo and him making dolls, people give him the side-eye. That's his world he lives in. He feels like people will just judge him completely because he wants to make hina dolls. And Kitagawa is obviously someone on the opposite side of that. She's someone that's very outspoken, speaks her mind, and she really doesn't care what people say. She'll just be very brutal and cold to those that put down what she's actually into. But overall, she's just very outspoken. She just does not care. While you see other characters that, deal with very similar situations as Gojo. Like Juju had her own stuff she was going through in the previous episode, where she realized that, she couldn't actually be a magical girl, but she found out she could be through cosplaying, to now Shinju in this episode, with her realizing that, she wants to cosplay, she's jealous that she can't cosplay, but at the same time she realizes that, she wants to cosplay as, a male character when she's female, and it would be incredibly difficult to do justice to the said character. And I just like all of the little intertwined emotions and thoughts that was put in to the character writing of Shinju and Gojo throughout this episode, because I feel like it would be a major struggle for someone to really overcome that, to make the actual cosplay look rather decent. And so let's actually get into how it turned out to look rather decent. So I have seen from many different anime, you have the wrap and all that kind of flattens the body. That's something I have seen throughout anime. I think many of us that watched a lot of anime have seen that. It's a traditional garb that's wrapped around. And another thing is that seeing that, like the flat, like the bee holder, or however, whatever it's called, how it actually pulled down the chest to flatten it, I was just like, wait, what? That actually exists? And apparently, it's actually a thing. Today I learned that there is a device that can actually help you out. It has to be uncomfortable to walk around in, and that's actually something I do want to talk about. So, one thing about cosplay I think many don't really take into consideration is that it cannot be comfortable. Like, there's probably occasions where it is comfortable, but I can only imagine, like, putting all that makeup on, the wig, to clothing that are very tight fit or very poofy to make it look good. It either has to be very hot and bothersome, like what happened with Marin in previous episodes, or it has to be something so uncomfortable you feel like your body's just gonna break, to just also, just the overall movement of it feels very restrictive. There is a lot of things to consider, and I like that fact that was thrown in with Shinju in this episode, with how she's trying to figure out how she could adjust her outfit to actually work with her body. So yeah, it's a good episode. It's a very educational episode for my dress-up darling, and I personally really appreciate this series for really going the extra mile to do stuff like that. But let's actually talk about, Gojo as well in this episode. I really, really appreciate Gojo. One of the reasons why, obviously, despite everything else we've already seen from him, is because he just did a hard question to Shinju, and it's like, you want to cosplay, don't you? Like, the way he just confronts her pretty much is like, it's very clear that you might not want to cosplay, or you said you didn't want to cosplay because your sister was around. Maybe you're embarrassed or whatever, and you just can't face your sister like that, just admit you want to cosplay, because maybe your sister would, not like it, or discourage you, and she had these worries. Obviously, she had no need to worry, which we see at the end result of the episode, but she was obviously worried, and this is things that happen all the time. And so Shinju in that moment was very similar to Gojo. She just felt like she was going to be ridiculed and put down for what she actually was interested in. And so Gojo stepping up to the plate and trying to talk with her, in that moment, he was pretty much Kitagawa Marin. That's exactly what he was. He was Marin for Shinju right now. That's exactly what he was doing, and it's a nice contrast to show that Marin's overall personality and what she has done for Gojo is helping Gojo help other people out and get over their slump, for eventually maybe Shinju will encounter someone that she actually can help out. It's beautiful. I really love that writing. I love just the slice of life elements and the development of the characters to really dive into the nitty gritty of what really makes them tick. Now, backing up for a second, let's actually talk about some of the other moments of the episode besides Shinju, because even though that moment is great, I love that entire sequence with the character development, characterization. There's obviously a lot more going on in this episode. So let's talk about the beginning sequence, which I think is more fluffier, more down-to-earth, or I guess slice-of-life-ish, with a little bit of fan service thrown in. When you have the beginning sequence, obviously you see some fan service, obviously. Marin is showing off her swimsuit, etc. You got that type of stuff. But the thing about that is we get to see that, Marin is getting a little bit more embarrassed about her overall presentation. For instance, she knew that she was exciting Gojo. She's like, and, got very close to try to excite him, and then she's like, you can look, and she, was going to show him her bra, but then she realized that she just had a plain white bra on, and she got very, very embarrassed, and then, she freaked out. She got, red in the face. And what this kind of shows, once again, is how her overall priorities are very messed up. Like, we saw a few episodes ago when she had her contacts, or not her contacts in, she got upset that Gojo saw her face without contacts. But then we also see in this episode that she got upset, or she realized she didn't have the right bra on, and she wanted to potentially show a fancier colored bra. So there's a very interesting, dilemma with Marin. It seems like she's not embarrassed, she just doesn't want to show low-grade stuff to him. And that's honestly interesting. I mean, I think that, everything when it comes to her personality, I really do wonder what's going on there. There's so much more to her that is yet to be dived into, and I feel like that we need an episode for that. I feel like we really do need an episode diving into Marin and all that, and realizing that she isn't completely perfect, which we know she isn't, but I would like more of that, which I think that gets in with a major theme of this episode, actually, that needs to be dived into. in the middle of the episode, when Shinju and, Gojo are having a conversation, and Shinju admires Gojo that's about to cut the wig, she realizes Gojo isn't perfect. She realizes that Gojo, actually tenses up, and he is not this masterful, outfit creator that he has been built up as. He's someone that has a lot of worries, and, he freaks out. And we all knew this, but obviously from Shinju's perspective, which, she pretty much admires him kind of like in a similar way as, Gojo admires, Kitagawa Marin, she thought that, he was perfect. But obviously not. And I feel like what's being built up here is something very similar to Marin, is that Gojo thinks that Marin is this almost perfect entity, and I feel like because of that, he's going to have a rude wake-up call, like a really rude awakening on probably whatever's going on with Marin in, the background. I feel like something like that's going to actually appear. But, yeah, overall, this episode of My Dress-Up Darling is really fantastic. Like, words cannot begin to describe just how good this series is. There's a lot of development, a lot of character development, there's a lot of characterization, great art, great animation. It's a good series. It really is, and I cannot get enough of it. So I guess I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much, everyone, for sitting down and watching this video. I greatly appreciate it. It helps me out a lot. If I give you any form of entertainment and you enjoyed the video in any way, then, leave me a like. And if you dislike the video, I guess, leave me a dislike. If you want to get notified for whenever, I upload a video, please click that bell icon and subscribe down below. But with that, guys, thank you so much. Tell me your thoughts about the episode in the comments below. Love you all. Be safe. Chibi out.